Hey guys, this is Chrasilis and I'm bringing you episode 2 of my class breakdown series, and this time we're going to be covering the Squire and its towers and abilities. So to start off, well, my pet's gone a little crazy there, but the first tower that you start with is the Spike Blockade, and you'll notice that most of the Squire's towers are blockades, but I mean, it is what it is, you know. They're pretty useful, but overall you won't be using them too much later. The cornerstone of the Squire is actually going to be the Harpoon Turret, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But to start, as you can see, it's exactly what it implies. It is literally a spike blockade, and if enemies come up and attack this thing, they take damage. It's that simple. It also has about 2.5 times the life of a mage equivalent blockade. I mean, I know their blockade doesn't actually do damage, the magic blockade, but this, you know, it's 2.5 times stronger health wise, and I think it has more defense and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty useful. So the next tower we have is the bouncer blockade. I believe this is the tower that unlocks at level 3 for the Squire, if I'm not mistaken. I don't exactly remember. I don't even remember the order the towers unlock on for all the classes, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But this tower is like the Spike Blockade, but has lower health, as you can see, but it does way more damage. It does over 4 times the damage and only takes 1 more defense unit than the Spike Blockade to place. Now what this does is, in a decent radius, like I guess from about where I'm standing, if you can get a decent view of that, from about here to the tower, anything within that range, in a circular radius around this tower gets attacked. And with the current tower stats I have, it's every 0.44 of a second. So basically twice a second this tower will attack. So anything within range takes a lot of damage, and I mean, it is a very high damaging tower. And if you're trying to use a solo Squire build, one of the things that I actually like to do with these is surround the Eternia crystals with these bouncer blockades. So you set up, you know, your Harpoon turrets and stuff otherwise, you know, in other places facing wherever choke points are, and then you have these surrounding the crystals, and if anything gets close, it just gets destroyed. I mean, that's not a sure set method, but it seems to work in most cases. So the third tower is the famous Harpoon Turret, which is the primary cornerstone of this class. For any build, if you're soloing with a Squire, or even if you're bringing out a Squire and combining it with another build, this is going to be your primary method of attack with this class, and it's going to be a very big help with other build layouts. So, as you can see, it attacks relatively fast upgraded. When you are using it early on, it does fire kind of slow. I would say like once every second, maybe 2 seconds or something like that. But the important thing to note is it pierces a good bit. So anything in a straight line with a pretty good radius around it, like, it's not just directly on the wood part. Like, I guess like from here to here, if you can see, any enemies within that range will just get attacked and destroyed. So it is an extremely powerful tower despite its slower speed, and it also does a lot more damage per shot, so that helps a lot. And you stack these, you upgrade them, you put on you know, your range gear and all that kind of stuff, and it becomes a very formidable force. It's also worth noting that the Harpoon Turret, at least as of right now, seems to have more life than the Spike Blockade. Am I wrong about that? Let's see. Oh, what am I thinking? No, it has more life than the Magic Blockade from the Apprentice. I don't know what I was thinking. I apologize for that. But yeah, so as you can see, the Squire towers are very, you know, they're very strong. The bowling ball turret is a little more pricey than the Harpoon Turret, but it's a similar idea. It doesn't it fires in one straight direction. It doesn't really have a huge range, but the bowling balls bounce off of walls. Like, you know, they might hit a wall in front of it, bounce back, and roll around for a second before the graphic disappears. So that, that kind of gives it a chance to pre-fire to a certain extent, which allows it to do a lot of damage in a small area. But the bad thing is, each bowling ball only hits one target, I believe, or it might bounce between a target or two or something. I'm not 100% sure, but in my experiences and the general public's experiences and recommendation, the Harpoon Turret is pretty much the only way to go. Unless there's a very small confined space, then you can spam these if you need to. See, as you can see, the DPS on this is actually lower, and it doesn't pierce. So if it fires about the same speed, the damage is lower, it doesn't pierce. The only benefit is that it bounces around a little bit. So the final tower the Squire gets is the Slice and Dice Blockade. These things are a beast. If you see the radius around it, any enemy within that radius, which is about as far as I'm standing now, gets destroyed by this thing. It's ridiculous. The DPS on this thing is just crazy. So, within 1 second, this thing does 50,000 damage to anything within the circle. And it doesn't really stop spinning, I don't think. Let me see. Time to reach max. Yeah, no, it doesn't stop spinning until enemies go away. When the tower senses enemies nearby, it starts spinning up, and that's it. It just keeps going until it's destroyed or until enemies are gone. It's pretty ridiculous. Not quite that useful in most circumstances, though, because it's a very high cost tower in every way, and it's really not the most efficient way to spin points. On lower difficulties, though, you can practically win missions only using those towers. On, hard, medium, even insane in a lot of cases, if you're, a geary character. For the hero abilities, we have the Blood Rage ability, which is relatively crazy. So, this is what it does. If you see, I go up here and I attack this thing. Right now I'm doing, 344,000 to 481,000 damage per swing. If I go and I activate Blood Rage, my damage literally triples. More than that, actually, for some of the hits. My speed is up. As you can see, I can move crazy fast, and I'll show you without it. Without it, you see that? My speed seems to be tripled, I guess. It's a pretty crazy buff. Now the only downside is it ticks down your mana at a very rapid rate. So you really don't want to spend a lot of time using that Berserker mode, Bloodlust, whatever it's called. See, what is it? Blood Rage. It's very powerful, but most of the time I use it in survival mode for huge waves of enemies. I'll just keep popping as much as I have mana, or for really hard bosses and things like that. The other ability is Circular Slice, which can be stacked with that. So as you can see, you do that, and any enemy within the radius of the Circular Swipe gets damaged heavily. So with Blood Rage, as you can see, it does insane damage. That was 10 million for one Circular Swipe. It is a very good way of destroying things that are in your path. Now remember, it's only going to do between 1 and 2 million. I'm not exactly sure on the exact specifications there, like the stats reduction on Nightmare mode. It's only going to do 1 or 2 million for this character with my current gear, for example. So if you do 100,000 damage on Nightmare, you might only do 20,000 damage. It's a huge penalty, as well as resistances, but that's for another episode. So this has been the Squire class breakdown. I don't know which class I'll do next. I'll probably cover the Monk next, because that seems to be a very popular class in general, and I think the auras are a very important cornerstone of all major builds. So I hope you guys liked this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, don't be afraid to give a like. It helps out more than you can imagine. If you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. That's about all I have to say about the Squire for now. I will upload a video, of the Squire as well as the other classes, destroying a random map so you guys can see how the classes are played at a later date. But for now, that's it. Have a good day, guys.